On this episode of The Real Estate Show, we are joined by Chris Cabanis, who is the Vice President of Commercial Operations and Senior Title Counsel at Tryon Title. And we talk about the seller this year that faked his own death, the unique experience we have both had in closings where marital secrets come out at the closing table, and some scams that you really need to be on the lookout for as they start to grow in our area. So if you're a real estate agent or a real estate professional looking for tips and tricks, this episode is for you. I got to give some props to Chris Jr. on this one because he is one of the main reasons we just love your crew because, one, you give us such good advice, but then also Chris Jr. is really just one of the nicest humans we've ever met. And our team really just adores him. So thank you guys for letting him call on us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the relationship.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we appreciate it. It's so helpful to us. Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit. Most people, I think, that rise to your rank in a title company like this, they practiced on their own for a while before they did it. And you did too. You had your own law firm for quite some time. So if you don't mind taking us through a little bit, your time in private practice, how you got to where you are at Tryon.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. A lot of people that do the job that I do now, a lot of them did have private practice experience at some point. As did I. I started out in Wake County, which was where my practice always was. I did it for about almost 17 years, just shy of 17 years, where I did primarily residential commercial real estate. And I also did some estate planning and corporate transactional work too. No litigation. But yeah, I mean, it was...
Sounds a lot like what we do here at Thomas and Weber. It's like exact.
Yeah. I had a small firm and had several partners.
Real estate, was that your favorite part?
The commercial real estate was probably my favorite, along with the estate planning portion of that too. And it's funny because I don't know if you guys are set up like this, but a lot of my estate planning clients came from the real estate side. So just they kind of went hand in hand because you kind of had a captive audience, when you had them in there for a real estate transaction.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been with Tryon now.
We see that same thing. People will be like at the end of the closing.
Exactly. And that's, pretty much how it all originated. And so I joined Tryon. January will be 6 years that I kind of came over to the risk management side. It's been a great move. I love it. I love it here at Tryon. I work with a lot of really good people. The owners of our company are fantastic, and it's been a really good move for me personally. And it was one of those things, though. You had to retrain your brain coming over to the risk management side because instead of asking question, why can't you insure it? It was, this is why we can't insure it, or this is why we can insure it. Mm-hmm. I should be more positive and say, this is why we can. This is what it's going to take to get to get to that point. But no, it's been a great transition, and like I say when we do our CLEs, I can certainly commiserate with what you guys go through on a daily basis. Doing real estate closings because I did it for a long time. So the stresses that go with that and the time constraints and everything else, that doesn't get lost on me. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for what y'all are doing every day.
Well, and it makes such a big difference, I think, like to the agents listening, they might wonder, or they may not even think about the benefit of having, title counsel that has been through the closing process and as many times as you have, because you get what it takes to get the deal done, and that matters to you just as much as it matters to all of us. So, we're solution focused. Of course, we got to have clear title, and we can't take unnecessary risks, but it really makes a difference when you've got people involved in the transaction that are solution focused. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And the people that don't even realize you are involved, how much they appreciate it once we actually get to the closing table.
Tiff, where are we at right now?
Ryan, as you know, we are at the law firm.
Oh, and what is it that we do here?
You're being kind of weird. At Thomas and Weber, we close real estate transactions. Are you trying to do an ad read right
I
now?
would never do that. Just hear me out though. Like if somebody were just wondering like, well, why is Thomas and Weber maybe a good law firm to do real estate closing? What would you tell them?
Well, as the marketing professional for our firm, I think that I would say we are easy to do business with. We provide lots of options to communicate with us in a secure way.
Yeah.
We have some of the best paralegals in the state of North Carolina.
Well, I mean, they're all right.
You're just saying that because they give you a hard time. Rightfully so. And considering you work with us every day, do we have enough time to go through everything?
I'd say that's good, but just hear me out. Curious. If somebody wanted to maybe close a house in North Carolina, submit their closing and possibly do that through our office, where would they send their, offer to purchase?
You're being so weird right now. You made up this email address.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty good one, quite catchy.
Thank you.
close@thomasandweber.com.
Ooh, that is good. I forgot about that one.
Sure you did.
So just, let's just throw it all out there in case they want to make a phone call and say, I want to close at the office and I like calling and talking to somebody. What number would they dial?
Well, for the sake of this not ad read, I will share that our phone number is 704-663-1600.
Oh, interesting. I really appreciate that, Tiff. Well, you guys heard it here. Back to the podcast.
You've been an attorney for a while, so I bet you have seen a couple crazy things. Is that right?
Yeah. We see, a lot of routine things, but yes, I have seen some crazy things. Probably one of the craziest things, and thank goodness it never made it to the point where it actually ended up closing because it got caught prior to closing, not by us, but by the actual attorney, was where someone had faked their death and moved to another country, and they had appointed a spouse.
Whoa.
I think it was their spouse as power of attorney prior to their alleged death, and it just, something just didn't smell right and feel right about it to the attorney. So there were a lot of questions on the front end, and once they did a little digging, they figured out, well, this is not legitimate. This person is trying to avoid some liability, which is exactly what was going on.
Oh my gosh!
So that's probably been within the last 6 months. So that's one of the craziest ones we've seen. But as far as,
my goodness,
yeah. You just, you never know what people are going to try these days.
I'm kind of dumbfounded. I've had some weird stuff as well, but I've never had someone fake their death. Now I have, thankfully, fraudulent deeds are unfortunately more common than people might realize, but one of the benefits is that the people that are scheming are often bad at it, so you can spot major red flags. So I can only imagine what the red flags were in this transaction for someone to say, I don't think that person is really dead. Wow. I hope I never see that, because that is wild. Can you imagine telling your buyer, I know you really want this house, but this widow, by the way, she's not really a widow. We got to track down the real seller, who, by the way, has a couple judgments, so they don't have the money. It's the quickest way to have a transaction fall apart. Now, I'm sure just from the the closing attorney side, you probably had some weird stuff too. Hopefully, no fights ever broke out in your office, but did you have anything crazy happen in your practice?
One, and I'm not the only one this has ever happened to, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. I remember I had a closing where a husband and wife came in. They were the sellers. They were coming in to sign their seller documents. And at the closing table, we had name affidavits for the parties. And the wife's name had been listed a different way at some point. I don't remember exactly how my paralegal at the time figured this out, but we always did name affidavits for buyers and sellers just so that we knew that we were dealing with the right people. And apparently this lady had been married before and never told her current husband that she had been previously married. So I have heard that that's happened to other attorneys as well. I talked to a couple colleagues here.
I am one of them.
Is it?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
That has happened to me one time. And, you'll appreciate this because you knew Ben. He practiced for 30 years before he passed. And when I first switched from litigation to work with Ben in real estate, he went to Egypt and he was like, we got a light calendar, should be no problem. I mean, he literally just threw me in the closing room and I'd barely even seen a closing package before. He's like, you go to court, it'll be fine. Probably the second closing I'd ever done while he's in Egypt, that happened with buyers. And we got to the name affidavits and same thing, different name for the female there. And you know as well as I do, a lot of times the spouses will joke with each other about, oh, look at that weird one you got, and so on and so forth. They're looking at each other's pages. And he looks at her and he goes, what's that? And I kind of laughed it off. I said, oh, one of those crazy misspellings, huh? And her face went white.
Oh, no.
White. And I guess he just knew. I mean, they'd been together quite some time. He just knew something was up. And he said, what is that? And she was silent. And he goes, no, tell me, what is that? And she told him, and it got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to give you guys some time. I'm going to step out of the room.
That's exactly what I did.
You let my receptionist know when you're ready for me to come back in. And it was they were there probably another 90 minutes talking, and then coming back in, and they closed it. And I've seen them since. They're actually still together. So I don't know what the deal was.
That's good.
That prior
That's good.
marriage,
It didn't ruin their marriage.
And I told Ben that, I know it was amazing, but I brought up Ben because when he came back, he said, how did things go? And I said, everything went pretty well, except for how often does it happen that people find out about prior marriages? And he said, never. I've been practicing 30 years. That's never happened to me. What do you mean? I go away for one trip and you get the juicy stuff. So he was so mad. I'm like, trust me, you'd be glad you weren't in that room. So I guess we're the unlucky few that we've actually seen that go down before.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder.
That is a mess.
It makes you wonder what people talk about when they first meet, and I don't know about in your situation.
Yeah.
In my situation, this was a little bit older couple, and I don't mean old, but older. Not in their 20s or 30s,
Mm-hmm.
but it was. I did the same thing. I said, I'm going to give y'all some time. You take as much time as you need. Let me know when you're ready to finish signing everything.
Whew. And you get back in there, and it's just like the chill in the room.
Yes.
It's a little frosty when you get back in. You're like,
it is.
Okay, we'll just try to make it through. What can you do? It is what it is. So you just try to get through the documents as best you can. But I was looking at your bio on the website. You're an NC State guy, huh?
I am. Yep. Go Pack.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is it? I wonder if it's the location of like where you guys are out of, but it seems like you guys have a lot of NC State folks on your team, which is probably good for office morale.
It is. Yeah. We used to, when I first came here, we used to joke and said, Tron wouldn't hire you unless you graduated from NC State. But we have a couple of UNC grads and other grads as well now. But we don't discriminate based on college choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Very attorney thing to say right there. Well,
Right.
We'll accept anybody.
That's right.
So you still do you catch a lot of games out there? Are you able to go back quite a bit?
I do. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I live not far at all from campus, and my wife and I have had season tickets for about 22 years now for football. And we used to have basketball and baseball, but when my kids were little, that was just way too much to try to get to, and so we don't have those anymore. But yes, we still do go to a lot of sporting events now. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. My husband's probably like over here jealous because we've got a 19-month-old at home, so we don't get out to as many sporting events as we maybe once did. And right now we live really close to Davidson College, and we don't really know anybody out there. We went to Wingate, and that's like kind of far to get to. So
Yeah.
one day when our kiddo's a little bit older, we'll make it back to the campuses to see the games. Now, before I forget, I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm sure you see this more than I do, just being that your reach, I've got this little area and you cover the whole state, the different scams that are coming around. And the one that's top of mind to me is the vacant land scam. Have you been seeing that much?
Unfortunately, yes. We don't actually handle any of the actual claims that come in our office because we're an agent. So all the claims are handled by the actual underwriters. But when a claim does come in, the underwriter reaches out to us to get a copy of our file that we've gotten from the attorney's office. And I would say probably in 2023, we've had at least 5 claims that have been filed because of fraudulent transactions. So
Oh my
it's
gosh. And
it's on the
that's,
rise, unfortunately.
yeah, it's terrifying too.
It is.
We're trying to follow all the advice that we can get from every title company, everybody that has, some intel on this. So we've implemented the letter going out right away whenever we get a vacant land contract. We won't close it without doing a Zoom call, and we won't let them, they can't get their own notary. We're trying to put all of these safeguards in place. And I talked to an attorney that's somewhat local as well, and she said she had one where they'd let the person get their own notary, but they started to get a bad feeling the day of closing, and they said, we will not close it until we do the Zoom call, and that person disappeared. So, it was one of those things that if they hadn't said, no, we require this, then it would have gone through their office too. So it's really eye-opening that it's happening everywhere, and you can't be too vigilant. It's like the more vigilant we get, the more creative they get. So we've got to be constantly evolving and looking out. And I try to tell real estate agents too, that it's everybody's job in the transaction to make sure that people are who they say they are. So I know a lot of times these vacant land scams will be for sale by owner, but if they have an agent involved, that agent is just as responsible to verify that that person's real, just like we are, the closing attorney. So I just try to tell agents all the time, like, get your hackles up, be worried when you see these things. It's like the low sale price, they live out of state. They won't talk to you by anything other than email. They won't pick up the phone. They won't do video calls. They have to get their own notary. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, but those are really kind of the big things that like make you think, this person might not be who they say they are. If I missed anything, please jump in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. And Alta American Land Title Association and also the Secret Service, I've actually got a couple little 1 to 2 page flyers that they have published where it talks about, and it's really geared more towards settlement agents and real estate agents, what to look for to try to avoid fraudulent transactions. And you really pretty much nailed the majority of what they do. It's vacant land. It's a cash deal. They want a quick turnaround time. They want to close usually within a couple weeks to 30 days. They insist by doing everything via email. They don't want to, like you said, they won't do a video chat. They won't let you send an actual notary that you're comfortable with to them. And I think on the front end, one of the things that real estate agents can really, really look for before they list a vacant land is make sure that you're actually meeting with that seller. Make sure that you have identified who that seller is and they are who they say they are. I understand, everybody's in this business to make money and everybody likes quick closings and, it benefits all parties involved usually, but it really doesn't if it's an illegitimate transaction. So it's better to kind of slow down, as frustrating as that is for people, especially buyers, sellers, and agents. It's best to just slow down, take your time, understand the transaction, make sure you've got all the correct players in place, before you move forward with it, because it's going to be so much worse on the back end to unravel what could have been avoided in the first place. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was an article. There was an article a couple of months ago. You may have seen it. I don't remember where I saw it. It might have been through Alta or whatever, but it was it was an article where a guy up in New York City had owned some property in Connecticut, and somebody sold it right out from under him because it was a vacant lot. He just happened to drive, or one of his neighbors happened to give him a call and say, "Hey, I noticed you started building a house." And he was like, "What? What are you talking about?" So they had gone so far as to close on the vacant land, and we're about three quarters or so through construction before the guy who owned the lot actually knew what was going on. So, your listeners and viewers can Google that article and read about that, because I mean it's real. This is not something that you just hear about.
We
every
saw
now
that
and then.
one. We shared it. We shared it on our social media, and it was one of those things where it's like, I hate that this happened, but I'm glad it's documented so that we can share it with folks and say, hey, this is what's really at stake. One, a buyer might not actually have bought anything because the person who conveyed it didn't have the right to convey, But then there's also the issue of, when you get beyond that, what if it's too late to unravel? You go to court and it's not, what's the judge supposed to do? Tell them to tear the house down? Maybe.
Maybe.
It's like major, major harm. And it gets beyond inconvenience. So I would much rather take the inconvenience during the transaction. People might think, gosh, this is so annoying that you're making us do these Zoom calls. All right, maybe it is, but I'd much rather be annoying right now than you have to tear your house down or actually not have bought what you thought you were buying. So I agree with everything you said on that of know who you're getting into the deal with up front.
Absolutely.
Now, I wonder, I hope, wouldn't make it to your desk very often, but we also see the fake buyer scams where the buyer, someone will send an agent, I want to make a cash offer on this beautiful waterfront property, and here's my proof of cash. They send a fake bank statement. They send fake ID cards, all of that stuff. And agents will ask me, like, well, what does somebody stand to gain from being a fake buyer? So I have to explain it's, okay, they're going to send you, either your real estate firm, the earnest money, or my law firm, the earnest money. They're going to send us too much money. And then they're going to say, oh, my goodness, I didn't mean to send that much. Will you wire back my excess? But their check is never, ever going to clear. So if you wire them back any money, then you've wired away somebody else's money because they actually don't have any money to give you. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that one to the agents that might be listening too, because that one, I think last summer especially, I had, no joke, within a 2-week span, about 10 agents contact me and say, something seems off with this new buyer that I've got.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, because they're not a real person, and it's so frustrating for everybody involved because a seller thinks they've got a cash offer on a property. A buyer, both agents are like, awesome, we got a deal done, just to find out it's not even a real person. So I just wanted to bring that one up. And again, hopefully that one doesn't make it to you, because there should never be a transaction happening out of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that as much as, from, like I said, the fraudulent seller side. And, but, I think back to years ago with that same type of scam, right, where they're wiring money and say, oh, well, you know what, we decided we're not going to go through with it, just, send us the money back or whatever. And, I know a lot of attorneys now have gotten out of, well, really, I'll speak to this both ways, commercial and residential. So on the commercial side, attorneys and agents basically will not deal with earnest money anymore. They just won't hold it. Just, and also on the commercial side in North Carolina, they're leaning more now towards the model of they're not even handling any disbursement of funds, or a lot of them don't even do their own settlement statements. It's all done through the underwriter. And, we partner with First American and Fidelity and WFG to help the commercial attorneys with that service, to connect them. And because of the liability, right? Especially in very, very large commercial transactions, the attorneys don't want that money running through their trust account and have the risk of the funds, something happening, getting fraudulent wiring instructions, something along those lines. And as where, an underwriter, a national underwriter like that is much more protected, I should say. I guess they have higher, stronger parameters in place than a lot of the local commercial attorneys do. On the residential side,
And more liquidity.
right, exactly. On the residential side, I would imagine that a lot of the agents are not holding it anymore either, and they're kind of relying on you guys as the settlement agent to hold earnest money. Is that pretty much the case?
For the most part, there's still a couple real estate groups around here that will hold it themselves, but 90+% of the time we're holding it. And I tell you what, if we didn't have to, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
because, when something terminates and they won't agree as to if they're going to release the money and to whom,
That's right.
it's always something to fight about, right?
Always. Always.
Now, I'm curious. I saw, we send out these kind of like getting to know you questionnaires because, as much as I'm enjoying talking to you now, I don't get to do that very often. So it's nice to find out some things about you whenever we're getting to talk like this. And I saw current favorite podcast, Pat McAfee Show. And is that still right? So my husband loves that too.
Definitely one of them.
And a lot of our listeners that maybe weren't super into football until one Taylor Swift started seeing Travis Kelce a couple months ago have recently found Pat McAfee because of that. So have gained a greater appreciation. He's an entertainer.
And he is. And that's one of the reasons that I enjoy it so much is because I don't know if I've ever seen anybody that has that much energy about whatever subject he's talking about at the time. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always, or typically most of the time, sports. But man, that guy, I don't know if he just drinks about 12 Red Bulls a day or what exactly gives him that fire. But he is something else. He's very entertaining. I enjoy his show a lot.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is he's got, send some my way because, Ryan is my husband who's behind the camera. He's had me on this camera for doing videos for I don't know how many years now, 5 or 6. And as much as I enjoy it and like sharing the knowledge, I'm always impressed by, like you said, people with that much energy because I'm like, gosh, he can make things that not everybody understands sound really interesting and like break it down for people. And I'm like, I aspire to be able to make the law sound that interesting someday. I don't know if it's possible because dirt is just dirt, like there's only so much you can say about it. But maybe one day, maybe once I get this thing to, 50,000 subscribers, we'll have you back on and you can critique if I've gotten any more like Pat McAfee in the meantime.
Hey, you're doing great. So, like you said, there's only so many entertaining things you can say about, dirt and real estate. So I get it. But no, you're doing great. This is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I won't keep you forever. I appreciate all of the insight that you've given today and you taking the time to join us on the real estate show. I told you before, we have a lot of real estate agents that listen to this, and it's so valuable to hear from people like you that just have this intense and high knowledge of all of the things that can go right and wrong in a real estate transaction, because they'll take away something from this that they're like, I didn't think the vacant land scam was really that popular. And for you to say, we've seen this many claims just this year, it hopefully will just kind of make a light bulb go off and say, this is not theoretical. This is real. It's happening in my neighborhood. I got to make sure that this doesn't happen to my people too. So, I just appreciate you taking the time to come on and all of the insight you shared, and looking forward to having you back on the show one day.
Absolutely.